It's interesting as a writer, sometimes the characters take on lives of their own, like seriously. Once you
Yes.
get going, and for those two, I set up what their problem was, why they're getting a divorce, but they just kind of took on a life of their own, which is always super exciting when you're writing the story. So I think that's probably why there was so much, emotion and passion because these two characters, as I was writing it, was like they were telling their own story there.
Hello, I'm Derek Cash with the North Little Rock Public Library System and want to welcome you to Meet the Author. Today, we are glad to have author Kathleen Fuller join us again to share stories and to tell us about her journey in writing the third book of her Maple Falls romance collection, Sold on Love. Thank you for joining us today. And Kathleen, thank you for being on the program.
Thank you for having me. I'm
All
so glad
right.
to be back.
Okay, yes. Um, let me ask you, Maple Falls, did you base it on, before we even talk about the book at all, did you base
Mhm.
Maple Falls on any specific city or combinations of cities here in Arkansas?
I actually did. So in Malvern, the main street there, there's businesses and they're legacy businesses. And so I was inspired by that. And basically, in the book, the Maple Falls is set in that area, Malvern
Hmm.
Hot Springs area. So while it's not Malvern, obviously, it was inspired by the main street in Malvern. And that kind of gave me the idea, well, why not write a series about a small town, smaller than Malvern, that had legacy businesses on the street, and that's why the businesses are important in the series because that was on purpose. And so yeah, I did. I based it
Hmm.
on Malvern Main
Well,
Street.
because the whole time I was reading, I was thinking, I wonder which one. And so I'm glad we've got you to be able to reveal that. Yes.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. Um, Let me tell the audience just a little bit. The story is about Rusty and Harper. Rusty's a mechanic. Harper is a realtor, and her parents and a rival, etc. Things like that. So they get an idea of what this story is about. But I'll ask you this maybe more pointed question: how did you develop the characters for your novel?
Um, well, so Harper was a character in the previous two books. She's part of the girl group. Maple Falls has two groups. There's the Booze and Buddies, and they're the older women, and her mom is a part of that group, and then Harper is a part of the group at that point in the series. They still don't have a name yet.
Mhm.
So I knew Harper's character was coming up and getting her own story. And I basically thought, what would be the complete opposite of Harper? Harper's this fashionista, real estate. She drives a Mercedes. And what would be the opposite foil for her? And of course, it would have to be somebody who was just a good old country boy, mechanic, very, very smart, but also very, just very even keel. And that's where I came up with that kind of opposite, which is really great because that's what I love to do is like take a character, see what the opposite is, and see what happens.
Well, it worked for your novel. And
Thank you.
so I'm glad, to get this explanation. Having said that, I know that
Hmm.
we're going to put a cover of your book in the background, but I got to show this to the audience. I read, obviously read the book, and Rusty looks like this wolf man, or at least that's the impression I get from the very beginning. And then I'm reading your
Hmm.
novel, and this guy on the cover looks so not necessarily chic, but he looks like he's been shaved, he's been to a
Hmm.
hairstylist. Did you have any control over that? Because I thought this doesn't look like him at all until you get to the end of the story. So how
Hmm.
did you have any control over the design of the book cover?
I don't have any control over that. However, I do
Okay.
have some input. And so sometimes I don't always have input. I don't think I had input on that, but when the book cover series of Maple Falls, what you're seeing on the cover is the end result.
Okay.
So you're seeing the couple together, they're happy, they're a couple. And so by the time they got together, he had, I don't want to spoil it, but there's a
Yes.
reason he looks like that on the cover. But
Yeah.
that's a very good observation. Nobody's ever pointed that out before. But yeah, so that's the reason why he looks like that.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Now, Having said that, this is series three. Do you have a specific number that you're going to create, or you just keep doing it as long as you feel like it? I mean, will there be a series four? I mean, a number four, number five, etc.
Well, there's a number four, Two to Tango, and
Hmm.
that's Olivia's story. And so, as of right now, Maple Falls, there's no more stories planned
Okay.
because it was the four girls in the friend group. But never say never, because you
Uh-huh.
never know. You
Uh-huh.
never know.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, I love Maple Falls. I'd love to go back to Maple Falls. So yeah, you never know.
Okay. Well, at least that it whets the listeners' appetite to keep maybe bombard you with emails that
Yes,
write a fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, that sort of thing.
that's right. Feel free to bombard me. I'm fine. I would that would be great.
Yeah. As fascinating or as entertaining as the story is between Rusty and Harper, I found the story between Madge and Dawn. I enjoyed that even more. The fact that I won't give it away, but they're going through a divorce. I found that when they were seeing the lawyer, to me, I was more gripped by that part of the story than anything else in the novel. I won't give it
Mhm.
away or what happens, but I was really entertained by that. That was gripping because it
Thank
was
you.
anger and fury and etc. And so I don't know how much you can comment on that, but that was my favorite part of the story.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I'm glad because I actually really liked writing that story. Being around the same age as those characters was part of it.
Hmm.
But the other thing too is that it's interesting as a writer, sometimes the characters take on lives of their own, like seriously. Once you
Yes.
get going, and for those two, I set up what their problem was, why they're getting a divorce, but they just kind of took on a life of their own, which is always super exciting when you're writing the story. So I think that's probably why there was so much, emotion and passion because these two characters, as I was writing it, was like they were telling their own story there.
Yeah. I won't reveal it because I don't want to spoil the story, but I got to admit, I hated the way their marriage, the ending that you gave it, but I won't say why. The reader's got to read the book.
Hmm.
I thought I would have done it differently, but then I know you could turn around and
Yeah.
say, well, then Derek, write your own book. But I just didn't like the way you ended it. But let the reader
Hmm.
read it, and they can contact you and say, oh no, I love the way you did it. But I just
Yeah.
disagreed with the way the marriage divorce sort of ended or
Hmm.
whatever with them. So I'll just make that comment. Okay. Um, the people, if you ask me, in this novel, they live more by emotions than by facts. It seemed to me that instead of
Hmm.
trying to find out exactly what happened, what is truth, let me find out, they just, oh, this is what I saw. I don't get everything, all the facts together, and then they jump to conclusions. Was that deliberate or was it just my own interpretation?
Um, no, I think I don't necessarily think it's deliberate. I think a lot of and I agree with you. And actually, I don't have a problem with you disagreeing about how to imagine and Dawn ended either. That's always refreshing. It's always
Okay.
interesting to see how the reader interprets things.
Okay.
Um, but I will say because of the conventions of the genre that I write in.
Mhm.
Um, you know, People when they read my books, they're looking for a more cozy read. I mean, imagine Dawn having, kind of that conflict is pretty surprising in my books. Um, that, it is a lot of emotion. It is a lot of misunderstanding. It's things like that. But the conventions of the cozy romance genre as well. Not all books, but
Mhm.
so I would say in a way it's deliberate to follow those conventions and expectations. Um, but then it can also be frustrating as a reader to be like, oh, could y'all just talk to each other? Would you just talk to each other? Would you just figure this
Yeah,
out? Would you
yeah.
just do that? And so I get that I get that interpretation of it,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
yeah.
Something I wanted to find out about you that you bring up
Mhm.
in the novel. in chapter 14, you have Harper and Rusty stare at the stars. Do you do that in real life, or is that just something you put in the novel?
Oh, no, I do that in real life.
Uh-huh.
My husband, if he could do his life over, he probably would have been an astronomer. He was so excited about the eclipse. It was an event for our family, just a huge event for our family.
Uh-huh.
So, I took astronomy in college. I've always been interested. I did not do a great job in astronomy, but I've always been interested in constellations, and I love looking at the stars. It's so incredible. So yeah, that is a little bit of me in there, but I also find it romantic too, to look up at the stars and
Uh-huh.
just watch the stars.
Of course, maybe it's because, and I'm not saying men and women can't be alike, but I could, when you
Mhm.
said it's sort of romantic, I thought that sounds like what a woman would say. And I was
Oh
just
yeah, my
looking,
husband is
and I
not.
was looking at it
Yeah.
more from an astronomer's point of view, the
Hmm.
Milky Way and all the different arrangements. And I was thinking of it more that way. And so
Hmm.
I could just another interpretation. And just so I'm so glad to
Hmm.
find out this is the way you thought. Yeah.
Yeah, my husband thinks like he's very scientific about it. I'm like, oh, it's so nice, isn't this romantic? Yep.
I'm going to go back. You've got the groups, the BBs. Something I thought was very poignant is when the BBs come over to be with Madge, and she tells them about the divorce. Um, I thought it was incredibly poignant. They helped her without being pushy because I think Madge is a helicopter parent. At times, I thought, oh, at the very beginning, I thought, oh, because I've not read series one or series two. This
Hmm.
is the first time, so I thought, oh my gosh, let's hope we get away from that a little bit because that will get on my nerves. But I just thought they had a way of helping her without being pushy the way she is. And you did a good job of doing that without being syrupy and gushy. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, Madge does not have much of a presence in the prior books, which is that's on purpose. Like the
Oh,
books
okay.
themselves are part of a series, but they're very
Hmm.
self-contained with
Hmm.
the characters and like each woman, each protagonist in the book has family drama. Let's just put it that way. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. Madge was a helicopter parent, and that was part of her problem was because she had invested so much in her daughter and to the neglect of other things. So,
Uh-huh.
yeah, and I kind of wanted to portray, how friends stand by each other, but sometimes that's all you need is somebody just to be there, not necessarily interfere or solve, but just to
Hmm.
be there to be supportive.
Exactly, exactly. And like I said, you did it so well that yes, like, why don't you solve? No, you don't want them to solve it. They're just there to support her and listen to her.
Mhm.
And you just did a great job of that. And so thank you for that. Um, Now, Senior, Rusty's father, he was a
Yeah.
delight. And I loved how you brought him up in the story to be at the bachelor, the auction. And just that
Hmm.
was that not hilarious that you're laughing at him.
Right.
You're having a good time with it. And just
Yeah.
that, talk about that. How'd you come up with that and everything like that? And it
Yeah.
worked.
Yeah, Senior brings the party. He
Yeah.
was another character. I was like, well, I kind of so if in the other so here's kind of a little bit of trademark about me is that in my books, not my early ones, but my a
Hmm.
lot of my Amish books and now these books is I do have a kind of a sassy older person in the book. Irma is the one from Hooked on You, and you see her throughout the series. She's one of the mainstays in the
Okay.
series, and so I haven't really done it with a guy. And so I wanted to do that with Senior because, again, we're talking about like Harper and Rusty being opposite. Well, Rusty's in conflict with his grandfather because they're opposite too.
Hmm.
And so they have the shared love of being mechanics and this legacy mechanic shop. But yeah, I just wanted kind of a guy that just he's going through some stuff, but he's taking it in stride as much as he can, and he just loves being that outgoing, extroverted guy, and that was a lot of fun to write.
Yeah. Well, I like that. that rapport because Rusty's parents are not there.
Right.
And that he loves his grandson so much, and you without saying "I love you," you know there's that love, there's that bond that they can
Hmm.
share. And although it might be more implied, you know it's there, and you do a good job of that. There's that warm feeling that you don't see, a lot of people don't even see in their own lives because no one was there to love them. And that it was good to see that there's still people who write about it. And so thank you for that. Yes.
You're welcome.
Mm,
I think too, just real quick, that in writing a relationship between men, not a man here, but trying to understand, like, the feelings aren't always just at the surface, and you're not always, men don't typically talk about their feelings. And so
mhm,
that having that there, I'm glad you picked up on that. It's very different from writing, Harper and her mom, or Riley and Irma in the first book.
mhm.
It has to be more implied and more subtle. You have to see it more through context.
Okay, yeah.
So that was intentional on my part,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay. Now, something I don't own a house, and one of the part of the story is Rusty's looking for a house, and he tells Harper that he could go as high as $1 million for a house. And I thought, he's an auto mechanic. How did you settle on that price? I mean, I'm not trying to say you made a big mistake, but I was just thinking, whoa, $1 million for a house, and he's an auto mechanic. Now, granted, he's working on Mercedes Benz, but how did
Yeah.
you come up with that figure? Because he was talking maybe three-quarters of a million.
Well, I wanted him to be a guy that was incredibly serious minded. And because of how his parental situation turned out, he would be somebody that would have the appearance of, maybe more like, he would never have the appearance of a guy that has that kind of money, but he
Mhm.
saved and he saved and he worked hard,
Yes,
and
yes.
he had towing business, and then he took over the mechanic shop, and he always worked on cars. And instead of, and that's the thing, like you said, his appearance, very much like a wild man and stuff like
Hmm.
that. Clothes weren't important, all that. It was, what's on the inside. So I wanted, again, to kind of have a little bit of a twist there that is like, oh my gosh, this guy's got money. But he got
Hmm.
money because he was determined to save and determined to keep his money. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Because you realize in the house he's living, the floor caves in, and then it
Yep.
hits you. Why haven't you fixed that? Because he's not necessarily stingy. He just doesn't
Hmm.
spend money unless it's, yeah. Okay. That solves the
Right.
problem that I hadn't thought of.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We've got a few more minutes. I got a couple of maybe pointed questions. You bring up
Okay.
on page 53 that Rusty spends time with his employee friend Hank, but he became unavailable after he got a girlfriend. I
Hmm.
thought that is so true. My sister would say that. She said she'd have all these girlfriends and they'd be around until they got a boyfriend, and then you wouldn't see them anymore. And when you've got friends who get married, they don't want to be around anymore. And I thought that
Hmm.
one sentence, I thought, just like that. That is so true. People just go, and then when the boyfriend or girlfriend dumps you, then they come back. I just thought that one sentence summed it all up.
Yes, very true. I may or may not have had that experience before.
Okay, all right. I think I'll conclude with that, Kathleen, if
Okay.
that's okay. I know it's sort
Oh,
of a,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
but you've given us a great insight as to how you develop the stories, the characters themselves, and I've just been really helps to understand the book even better. So I really appreciate it. If you're willing, please tell the audience, your website, and if they want to buy a book, where they can go to get it.
Okay, my website is kathleenfuller.com, and there you'll find all kinds of things. You'll find for sure under the books tab a place to buy books. So I have links to all of the online bookstores. You could also go to Barnes and Nobles. They now Sold on Love was published several years ago, so probably the only, well, I know for sure the only place you'll get it is online. But there's links on my website. And
Okay.
then I also have you can sign up for my newsletter. I do giveaways there. I have a YouTube channel where I do crochet tutorials. All that information is on my website. So to find out about me, go to my website.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
All
you. This
right.
was great
Oh,
again.
you're welcome. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us today. If you're interested in reading Sold on Love, you can check it out from the library or purchase it wherever books are sold. Also, you can find more information at our website, nlrlibrary.org. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you next time.